Welcome back to us here at France 24 and to the newsroom, where we're going to take a look at the world's press in our press review, international press review, with Gulliver Cragg. Gulliver, where are you going to start us off?
In Israel, on the second day of Israel's truce with Hamas, the Israeli papers are bubbling with debate about the issue. On the front and back pages of the Jerusalem Post, there are some quite amusing or surprising articles about it. In one, Kalev Ben David compares the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert to a mouse drowning in cream and churning in the hopes that it will turn to butter. I think this is a reference to a Steven Spielberg film. In terms of the current political situation, it's a reference to Ehud Olmert's frenzied diplomatic activity, which Ben David thinks is perhaps also an attempt to divert attention from his legal woes. Just next to that, on the front page of the Jerusalem Post, Gil Hoffman reports that Olmert has said he does believe that a miracle can save his premiership. He said that the Middle East is known as a land where miracles happen, before going on to wish Ariel Sharon a speedy and a complete recovery. But at least he does admit that he believes it will be a miracle if he survives as Prime Minister of Israel for much longer. Meanwhile, on the back page of the Jerusalem Post, there's a taste of some of the real hatred that Israelis feel for Olmert and rejection of the truce that they've made with Hamas. From a very right-wing perspective, Caroline Glick, she lambasts the Israeli government for capitulating to Hamas. She says they're endangering southern Israelis, and also they've been capitulating to Syria over the Golan Heights. She's got absolutely no confidence that this truce can bring anything good for Israel. In Haaretz, the more liberal paper, you get some more reasonable debate about it. There's some acknowledgement also of the Palestinian point of view. There's a report from Gaza saying Gazans are appreciating the calm now and the quiet. They needed a bit of respite. Also recognising that Hamas police are working to enforce the ceasefire. And the journalist reports that Hamas clearly needs to enforce the ceasefire because it was losing support from residents. There's also an article in Haaretz focusing on the architect of the truce, Major General Amos Gilad. That's him in the picture there. He says he felt it was the least worst option to have this truce, given that there was no public support for a military offensive in Gaza. But the paper does, a bit like the Jerusalem Post, portray the truce as evidence of Ehud Olmert's weakness, concluding that the goal here is just quiet, not peace.
All right, comprehensive review there of the Israeli press. Next, we're going to move on to the race for the White House, I believe.
Yes.
Another chapter in that.
Barack Obama, who's going to run the race without public money and with considerably more money from private donations, probably. The LA Times reports on the attacks that Barack Obama has received from the McCain camp over this decision. One spokesman for McCain saying that accepting private financing is not really the new kind of politics that Obama promised. In the New York Times, though, we read that Obama says he still approves of the public financing system, but says it's broken because the Republicans play it to their advantage via independent support groups. The New York Times, though, isn't really convinced that there's much evidence of that happening so far.
All right, and finally in this bulletin, or in this press review, I should say, we're going to squeeze in some football.
Yeah, Portugal, the latest side to bow out of Euro 2008. They were favourites, but they lost to Germany last night. Record calls it a bitter exit for Portugal, blaming unforgivable defensive errors for Germany's first two goals. I think maybe we should give a bit more credit to the German forwards for those goals. Bola, meanwhile, has Cristiano Ronaldo, the Portugal star, on the front cover, putting on his saddest face with the headline Triste Fado, and him saying that it just wasn't enough. We did our best, but it wasn't enough. Meanwhile, the Germans are, of course, jubilant, but in typical German style, they're not resting on their laurels. The headline in Bild is, "Now go get the cup."
All right, with that call, we thank you very much, Gulliver Cragg, for that press review, and stay with us here at France 24 for more.